shantir vayu shantiraditya shantif chandrama shantir nakshatrani shantirapa shantiroshadaya shantir vanaspataya shantir Gau Shanti Raja Shanti Rashva Shanti Purusha Shantir Brahma Shantir Brahmana Shanti Shanti Reva Shanti Shantir Me Astu Shanti. May there be peace on earth and in the sky. May there be peace in the water and in all directions. May there be peace in the plants, in the trees, and in animals. May there be peace in the hearts of all beings. May there be peace in everyone and in everything. Sarvetra Sukhinas Santu, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet, Sarvastaratu Durgani, Sarvo Bhadrani Pashyatu, Sarvas Sadbuddhimapnotu, Sarvas Sarvatra Nandatu. May all be happy and healthy. May all see what is good, and may no one experience misery. May all overcome their obstacles and acquire good tendencies. May people everywhere find joy and fulfillment. Let us now spend some time touching the center of peace and joy in our hearts. A good way to begin the practice is to withdraw the scattered energies of the mind and bring them to rest on one point. That point can be our own breathing. Let us therefore practice breathing with awareness. As we breathe in, let us visualize that our body and mind are being filled with love, strength, and compassion. And as we breathe out, let us release all the stress, anxiety, and exhaustion in the body and mind. Let us practice this way for a while. Let us now turn our attention to the region of our heart. Although God is present everywhere and in everyone, the divine presence can be felt most clearly in our hearts. We can meditate in any way we have been taught. To remain focused, we can take the help of a short mental prayer or a mantra or a divine name. Let us now spend some time dwelling on the presence of God in our hearts. Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. May the Divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. So we begin today on verse number 15 on chapter 4. Let's chant the verse together. Evam jnatva kritam karma purvairapi mumukshubhihi kuru karmaiva tasmatvam Purvai Purvataram Kritam. Thus knowing, even the ancient seekers of liberation performed work of yore. Therefore perform work alone done by the ancients. So we have seen in the earlier verses, the question that came was, when God is capable of giving us the highest, why is it that not everyone seeks the highest? And then Krishna explains that by saying that people are different, that people have different tendencies. And these different tendencies is what produces the diversity in the different societies the world over. And in the last verse we saw that although these differences exist, and since everything is created by the divine being, in spite of having created, or in spite of being the source of all the diversity in the world, Krishna says, I'm really not the doer. And one who knows, that was the verse 14, actions do not touch me, nor have I any desire for their fruit. He who knows me thus is not bound by actions. In other words, if we, as seekers of truth, are able to center ourselves on the Spirit and recognize that all the actions that we think we are doing are really not being done by us. In other words, it's not the Spirit who is doing anything. It's the body, mind, and ego, which is only a covering over who we really are. So if I remember that and do my actions without desiring any fruit, then I am not bound by the actions. In other words, what creates bondage for us? And that bondage oftentimes in a most visible way manifests as stress and anxiety. And in a larger sense, that is what leads to rebirth. That is what keeps us moving into this cycle of birth and death and prevents us from being free. And so Krishna then, in this verse that we just chanted, says, therefore, do all work, recognizing that you are not the body and mind, remembering that you are the Spirit, and not desiring the fruits of work, because if you desire the fruit, you will be bound by it. And as I've said before, oftentimes, just because you don't desire something doesn't mean you won't get it. You are going to get what you're going to get, whether you desire for it or not. It's like if you say, oh, I'm I'm going to eat this. They say there's some dish in front of you, maybe ice cream, let's say, and you say, I'm going to eat it. And if that ice cream is going to bring you joy, then it's going to bring you joy whether you desire it or not. The act of eating it is going to bring you joy. So your desiring it really makes no difference at all. The difference it makes is this: if you desire it and then you eat it, and then it produces all this samskaras first, produces more desire, and if it doesn't make you happy, it makes you miserable. And if you don't desire anything at all, just take things. See, a lot of people say, oh, take things as it comes, take life as it comes. Sounds like a very practical advice, and many people think that they are doing it. But I can guarantee you, if anyone is truly taking life as it comes, there won't be any stress or anxiety. We don't take life as it comes. We expect life to bring us certain things. We expect life to protect us from certain things. And when that doesn't happen, that is what makes us miserable. And so that is the advice that Krishna gives here. And that's why he says, knowing this, the ancient seekers of liberation, in other words, those who have come before us and who became liberated, who became free, they became free because they worked knowing that they are spirit and not seeking the fruits of actions. And you should also work according to how those people did. And the example that is oftentimes given here, and later on Krishna will also mention, the king Janaka was one example that's often mentioned. He was historically the father of Sita, and he was a king of, and normally we might think that a king who is so busy, kind of immersed in this worldly activity, how can such a person be liberated? Oftentimes we think in order to become free, in order to think of the Atman, in order to seek the highest, we cannot be working in the world. That it's possible you just kind of give up everything and maybe you become a yogi, go to a forest, then maybe you might get it, but not when you are in the thick of action. And what even the last chapter referred to that some of the greatest yogis, some of the greatest seekers of truth who had attained that highest were actually not people who had renounced everything and gone to the forest or on a mountaintop. They were people like you and us. They were kings, they were householders, they were workers, they were all kinds of people. So where we are and what work we are doing doesn't make as much difference as how we are doing it. And that's the central idea here. And therefore, the diversity that exists in any society, it's we who produce we create, make value judgments. We say this is higher work, this is lower work. And in terms of the four castes, this is a higher caste, this is a lower caste. But higher and lower, there is no reference here in the Gita about which is higher or which is lower. It's just saying it's a different work. Swami Vivekananda referred to it in his lectures on Karma Yoga. We might think, oh, a king's work is an important work. That's like high. As opposed to, let's say, a shoemaker. It's someone who's just mending shoes. That seems like a very menial kind of job, as opposed to managing a big kingdom. And what Swami Vivekananda points out is that there is really no difference. The king, if he is a good king, efficient king, is able to run a kingdom efficiently. And if the person who is mending shoes is an expert at that work, that person does mending of shoes perfectly. Now, a shoemaker will not be able to run a kingdom, but nor can the king mend the shoes. So this person knows something which the other one doesn't, and that person knows something which this doesn't. So the what's important, what's up, what's down, what's high, what's low. These are the judgments that society makes. But these are not ones given by the scripture, so to speak. The scripture itself doesn't say this is high or low. And so we have to then see. And this is why all discrimination in society, whether it's based on the work that a person does, or the wealth that a person has, or based on race, gender, on any of these criteria, this discrimination is produced by the limitations and the biases and the prejudices in our own mind. Because in effect, one work is not in any way higher or lower than the other, because all kinds of work really involve the activity of the body and mind. And that's something that's to be kept in mind. And that's why some of these greatest enlightened beings were people who we might not normally associate with spirituality. The beauty of Gita and Vedanta is that it doesn't limit the practice of spirituality only to a certain class of people, or to only certain place or a certain activity. So anyone, no matter what work or where you are, you have the right to be free, provided you do what ought to be done. And that's what is described here. So the question is, if we have to work without desiring the fruits of actions, what kind of work are we supposed to do? Just do any work? Just do whatever our heart impels us to do? Or is there any guide? Is there anything to help us decide that? And that is described in the next verse. Verse number 16. Kim karma kimakarmeti kavayopyatra mohitaha tatte karma pravakshyami yajñātvā mokṣyase shubhāt. Even the wise are deluded as to what is action and what is inaction. I shall expound to you that action, knowing which you will be free from all ills. So this is a very important verse, that even the wise, by wise is meant not enlightened being, because an enlightened being doesn't have any doubts. By wise is meant people whom we would normally consider as well-read people, or intelligent people, or people who are scholars, or people who think they know. Even such people, it's not so much a surprise if someone has not studied anything to say, well, I'm confused about what should be done or what shouldn't be done. But even people who have studied these things, even they get confused. So, and that is why so what is work? What is action? What is inaction? That is something that even wise ones are confused. And therefore Krishna says, I will tell you what is real action, what is real karma, what is akarma, knowing which you will be free from all ills. By ills is meant not just headache and stomachache. Ills is meant really the word that is often used in Vedanta is bhava roga. It means the disease of worldliness. But what is worldliness simply means the disease which makes us identified with the material world. The disease which keeps us tied down on this plane of mortality. The disease which prevents us from seeing the truth which is behind the material existence. Verse 17. Karmano yapi bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam
akarmanascha bodhavyam
gahana karmano gatihi.
gahana karmano gatihi.
There is something to know about prescribed action and about action that is prohibited, as also about inaction. The way of action is mysterious. Very important. Gahana karmano gatihi. So here he is mentioning three things. That we need to know what is karma, what is action. We need to know what is akarma, what is non-action. And we need to know what is vikarma, meaning that which is prohibited action. So three things: action, inaction, and prohibited action. And it's not always easy to determine this. And that is why gahana karmano gatihi. A lot of people say a lot of things about karma. Karma is has entered into mainstream English now, and you'll find the word everywhere. Just this morning, I saw now one small router for travelers has just come, and it's called karma. So again, so just one example to show karma now is entering everywhere. One thing important to know about karma is this. The one thing we know only general way in which karma functions. It's like if you do something good and right, it will lead to results which will make you happy. If you do something which is not right or which is not good, it will lead to results which will not be happy. That's all that we know. No one can say that which particular action will lead to what kind of result. Some of the actions and results are not that difficult to guess. So it's not like it's totally mysterious. I mean, if there is now, there is flame there, is no mystery. If I put my finger there, what's going to happen? I'm not going to feel a very cooling sensation, clearly. So we know what's going to happen. But there are a lot of other things in life we don't know. I mean, sometimes people who believe in karma, they say, oh, I'm suffering so much. Maybe, I don't know, what I may have done so that this pain has come. And then if they're able to think of something in this life, they say, maybe because I did this to that person, that is why I'm suffering now. Or if they're not able to find anything, say, maybe in my last life I might have done something. Now, what exactly we did in this life or last life or whenever, and it's producing this result, no one knows. So that is one thing. So stop making these, stop imagining or stop worrying about these things, or what has produced what. Because it's not, first of all, you are never going to know for sure. And secondly, it's not very helpful at all. It's enough to know the general principle. Good begets good, bad begets bad. That's it. And that's why he said mysterious is the law of karma. And that's why it's good to know what does exactly karma mean? What exactly is the meaning of action? What does it mean that there is inaction? What does inaction mean? And what is a prohibited action? So this is the three terms mentioned here. And now we come to the verse 18, the very, very significant verse. So we will have to spend some time discussing it, but first let's read it together. Karmanya karmayah pashyet akarmani cha karmayah sabuddhiman manushyeshu sayuktah krishna karma krite. He who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is wise amongst men. He is poised and a performer of all actions. It's a very confusing verse in some ways. And if you take it at face value, it really doesn't even make sense. What does it mean? He who sees action in inaction. I mean, if you see inaction and identify as action, and if you see action and you identify as inaction, you're not seeing things clearly. Then how can such a person be the wise amongst people? I mean, you're really not seeing things correctly. If you say, well, if you see inaction and recognize this is inaction, if you see action and recognize this is action, then it's obvious. But here it's saying a person who sees karma and identifies it as akarma, not action. A person who sees not action and says this is action, such a person is a wise among persons. So makes absolutely no sense to me unless we think about it a little deeply. Now, how is this verse explained? So let's first take one view, one way this verse can be explained, because obviously this is a verse in the Gita and it's being taught by Krishna. So we are at least that much sure that if it doesn't make sense now, not that it doesn't make sense, that maybe I'm not getting it. Because we believe that Krishna wouldn't say something so nonsensical. So it should make sense. So there is, let's say, a group of people who are sometimes we call them as karmakandis. Karmakandis means called the ritualists, those who well, very briefly, rather than going into too detail about this, the entire Vedic literature can be broadly classified into two sections. And one is called Karma Kanda, the second is called Jnana Kanda. And the Karma Kanda means that portion of the Vedas which deals primarily with rituals. And Jnana Kanda means that portion of the Vedas which deals primarily with knowledge. What the Vedantins say is that that portion which deals with rituals and karma is meant to help us purify our heart. And when the heart is purified, the knowledge portion, primarily the Upanishads, help us then to become free and lead to moksha, or freedom. And so from this standpoint, the ritual portion or the work portion kind of becomes secondary. Its only purpose is to produce purification of heart, and the freedom is got through knowledge. But there are, as always, people who will look at things differently, because people are different. So there is one section of people who believe that no, the rituals or the karma, that's the main purpose of the Vedas. So that is something that is what the Vedas are saying. Not knowledge, etc., is good for chanting and singing as an accompaniment to karma, but not something which is a higher stage. So just to give you don't have to really know this, but it's just for your information about how this argument comes, how this verse is explained. Now every karma will have a result. And so in the Vedas, the different karmas, the different rituals that are mentioned, every time they say, well, if you do this, you will get this. If you do this, you will get this. Now, there are certain places where nothing is mentioned. They're just saying, do this. So, for instance, there is one example is, there is one place in the Vedas it comes, Vishvajita Yajeta. Now, there is one yajna, one sacrifice, one ritual called Vishvajit. And it is said, you should perform this ritual called Vishvajit. But no result is mentioned. What's going to happen? Every karma should have some result. And so the scholars, the Vedic scholars, have come to the conclusion that where there is no result mentioned, since everyone desires heaven, where there is no desire mentioned means a generic default result is heaven for whatever karma is mentioned. And therefore, this particular ritual or any other ritual where no specific result is mentioned, it means going to heaven. Now, there's another section, another type of rituals involved in life, which are called nitya karmas, like a daily ritual. And among the daily rituals is, for instance, one ritual called the Sandhya Vandana, which is done, that's called twilight devotion. It's done where the day meets the night and night meets the day, so twice a day. Now, in that particular ritual called Sandhya Vandana, again, no result is mentioned. But what is said is that, what is believed is that if you do it, you won't get any result. But if you don't do it, then that will produce a bad result. So, you are doing karma, but it's not producing any result. But if you don't do it, then it produces a bad result. So, one explanation of this verse is that, giving that as an example, that since doing it produces no karma, that karma is almost like akarma because it produces no result. On the other hand, not doing it produces a bad result. So akarma is kind of karma because it produces a result. So that is what Krishna is referring to here. That's one explanation. And that explanation, the Vedantins reject it. They say it makes no sense. Because if at some place we make the statement that if there is no result mentioned, it automatically means heaven, then even for Sandhya Vandana or these kind of daily devotions, which one is expected to do, it will lead to heaven. So every karma will lead to a result. So doing these daily devotions, and by devotion mean the daily rituals, will produce a result called heaven. What the Vedantins also point out is that it's only right knowledge. In Sanskrit, it's called yathartha darshana. Seeing things correctly, that leads to good result. If you see things wrongly, it can never lead to good result. And we can go back to our rope and snake, the most familiar example we use all the time. If you mistake a rope for a snake, it doesn't lead to a happy result. If you see things wrongly, it's going to produce fear in you. But if you see correctly, say, oh, it's a rope, then you don't have any fear, confusion, or anything. So, right perception alone can lead to good result. Now, how can therefore then seeing inaction as action and action as inaction lead to good result? Because you're seeing things opposite. So far, is it making sense, what I'm saying? So what Vedantins say is that what this verse really means is that we must see action where there is action. We must see inaction where there is inaction. Then we are seeing things correctly. And if we see things correctly, then only we can be called truly wise. Now let's look at ourselves. Now I might say that, Paul, now I'm talking to you. You are listening. I'm reading from this book. Now all this is action. Your listening is an action. My talking, my holding this book, my reading, all this is action. So I am seeing action, right? I'm now reading from the book. I'm reading, I'm talking. So where am I seeing the action? I am seeing action in me because I am who is reading, right? But who am I? And we have seen up to this point that Krishna says, I am the spirit, I am the Atman. And the Atman is changeless. Atman is birthless and deathless. There is no activity in the Atman. So my seeing action in me, in the Atman, is a mistake. It's not right perception. So Atman, there is no action. Atman, there is akarma. And I'm seeing karma there. So I'm really seeing karma where there is no karma. And the body and mind, which are really doing everything. We never say, my mouth is not talking, my ears are listening. We don't say that. We said, I'm the one who is listening. And so where there is action, we don't see action. And where there is inaction, we are seeing the action. Now, if I see things correctly, then I know that even when I might still say I am reading, but deep down I know I am the spirit. I am not doing anything. I am just the witness. Whether it's reading, writing, listening, all this is done through our senses. The senses of action and the senses of knowledge. So seeing action where there is action, the body, mind, ego, and seeing inaction where there is inaction, the spirit. If we see that, then we are truly wise. Sa yuktaha, such a person is truly a yogi and a performer of all actions. In other words, we get the benefit of doing all the right things. I mean, what would be the benefit of doing all the right things and all the good things? Well, you are going to be truly happy. Now, that kind of complete fulfillment, joy will come to us if I see things correctly. And seeing things correctly means always trying to remember, I am the Atman. And never forgetting it. It was like a person was asked on his 100th birthday. Not everyone reaches to be 100, and so this person was pretty in good shape at 100 when he was 100. So a big party was arranged by his family and friends, and everyone gathered, and the local newspaper journalist came to interview him, and so they asked him, what's the secret of your long life? And he said, it's very simple. Keep breathing. Don't ever stop. Don't forget to breathe. That makes sense. But that's also true for spiritual seekers. In a theistic language, we might say, keep the remembrance of God. So it's not that God has to be remembered only a few minutes in the morning and evening when we are praying. Rest of the time we can conveniently forget. We do. But that's not the ideal state. Our ideal state should be somehow, can I reach a stage in life when throughout the day I'm able to remember God more and more often? If you want to look at it in a theistic way, if you want to look at it philosophically, it's exactly the same, that can I find a way by which I can keep this awareness in me throughout the day that I'm really the Atman. You see, when a person is in love, it's not that someone said, I'm in love, so I'm going to think of my beloved 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the evening. It never happens that way. Someone who is truly in love, your mind will invariably think of the object of your love. Every little thing, you see something and you're reminded, oh, this is what my beloved loves very much. You see something. So every object you see, every occasion that comes, every experience you have, your mind will remind you about it. Now, as spiritual seekers, we should be ideally in love with spirit. That is what bhakti, devotion, is often understood only in a very theistic sense. Oh, being in love with God, devoted to God, often as something outside of me. But bhakti really means a one-pointed, a single-minded focus on the object of our love. And that object can be outside, the object can be inside, the object can be one with my own true nature. Actually, Shankaracharya, in that great book, Viveka Chudamani, he says, he defines bhakti, normally translated as devotion, as swaswarupa anusandhanam bhaktiriti abhidhiyate. What is bhakti? Swaswarupa, my own true nature. Anusandhanam, a single-minded exploration of my own true identity. That is bhakti. So what is the advantage of the morning and evening prayers that we do? The advantage is this, because that's the time when we are able to, or we should be able to, focus our attention on our spiritual goal to the exclusion of everything else. And if I'm able to do it well, then the effect of that will remain with me even when the rest of the day I'm engaged in carrying out my duties and responsibilities. So it's like when you go and take, say, a flu shot or whatever shot the doctor gives you. And as I've often said, the shot is really given in just one place in your body. Just like every pore of your skin, the shot is not given. And yet you can't say, oh, I got the shot here, so only this portion is now safe from flu. That's not what happens. You take a shot in one place, the entire body gets the benefit of the shot which is given in one place. So the prayer and meditation that we do in the morning is like a shot. If the day, if the day has a 24-hour body, then you are giving it a shot in only 10 or 15 or half an hour. Now the benefit of that shot should at least remain for the 24 hours or 12 hours if you meditate in the evening as well. And so therefore, it's not enough to experience great peace and joy only when I'm praying and then just forget about everything and just kind of get so involved into everything that my spiritual life remains compartmentalized, has no connection with the rest of my life. At some point, that walls have to be broken. At some point, I have to say that my intense prayer and meditation in the morning should somehow percolate my morning, my afternoon, my evening. And then evening, when I pray and meditate again, the effect of that must percolate throughout the night. Even when I'm asleep, after all, the mind is still there. The mind doesn't disappear when I'm asleep. And it's the same mind that was praying and meditating in the evening. So a restful, peaceful, joyful mind, which is filled with the power of prayer and meditation, then can go to sleep at night and wake up fresh in the morning. And that's how we should find a way. Now, in the beginning, I'm not suggesting that overnight, suddenly we are going to remember everything all the time. That's the goal. That's the ideal. Now, we must then begin by finding ways to remind ourselves of that goal. And sometimes it can be done through creating some reminders. It's like you have a to-do list or things like that. Because you know, if you look at it, you remember these are the things that need to be done. There is one Again, nowadays pretty much a lot of people use smartphones and so on. So there are now some apps are there to remind you if you want. There is if you are interested, there is one app for mindfulness. There's a bell, and you can program it the way you want. Want to be reminded. It could be just a kind of a tiny thing, or even if you don't want to make sound when you're working in an office or something, then it'll just vibrate a little bit, so and you can say you want that reminder to come to you maybe every half an hour or every 20 minutes, and suit yourself maybe every hour. And so every time that comes in, you can mentally say, okay, I'm just going to repeat my mantra once or 2 times. So at least every 20 minutes or every half an hour. And just remembering your mantra does not even take 2 seconds. So it's not like, oh, my work is going to be affected. These are the ways in which, or at the desk you are sitting or working, you can have some picture or some symbol or something which will remind you of your spiritual goal. Or if you are on your computer or on your cell phone or a tablet, you have choice, to select what kind of a wallpaper you want or what kind of a screensaver you want. So there are now, technology has given us ways or opportunities to use these facilities to remind us of our spiritual goal. And if we can do that, then we'll be able to see action where there is action, inaction where there is inaction. We'll be able to remember that each of us is truly the spirit, and the body, mind, ego that we have are the instruments, are the covering. And instruments are good. We need instruments. No work is possible without an instrument. And so we can take good care of our body, mind, just like we take good care of our car and computer and everything that's useful to us. But just as we don't confuse ourselves with our car, we say, I love my car, but I'm not my car. I love my computer, but my computer is different. Similarly, I love my body and mind, but they are different. They are not me. So, although it may sound something obvious when we are reading a text like the Gita, it is so easy to forget this. It is so easy to forget. And therefore, since we have gotten used to thinking of ourselves in one way, and we have done it not just for a few years, but for God knows for how many lives, this habit of looking upon ourselves as mortal, material creatures has so got ingrained into our mind and brain that to undo it, it's going to need work. And if we ever imagine that, oh, it'll happen by itself, no, it won't happen by itself. So there is no hurry, there is no rush if you don't want to do it now, but that doesn't mean it'll happen by itself. You can postpone it if you want. Maybe you can say, well, not in this life, next life. It's up to you. But we can undo the damage that's done, but only we can do it. No one else will do it for us. People can, even a mother can bring food to the baby, but the mother cannot digest it for the baby. The baby has to digest it. If the baby is not well, the mother can bring medicine, but ultimately, no one in this world can do certain things for me. Others can help me, others can encourage me, others can support me, but at some point you'll have to say, I have to do it myself. It's like this. Suppose there is a lazy person who says, go and cook yourself some food. Oh no, I don't want to do it. Will you please cook for me? And somebody else will cook and bring. Okay, now eat it. Oh, it's too much work taking it, and can you please feed me? So somebody can feed it. Now up to this point, somebody can know what happened once the food goes in. That's your job now. Nobody else can help you digest it. So that's what is meant here. So it's a very, very important verse. I would encourage you to, when you go home and you have one full week ahead, read this verse again and try to reflect over it. See, there's a very long commentary here. See what different thinkers have said. Swami Vivekananda, in his lectures on Karma Yoga, he puts it where, in a language that all of us can understand and appreciate. And he puts it this way. Instead of this technical language of action or inaction, what he says is this. What he says is, one who can see activity, one who is intensely active, who is working all the time and is completely at rest at the same time, and one who is completely at rest at the same time is intensely working at the same time. Such a person is a yogi. It's the same idea. He puts it as rest and activity. In our life now, the two have gotten separated. So weekdays, work. Weekends, rest. What Krishna is saying is, we don't have to divide our week into a time of rest and a time of work. We can be doing both at the same time. And it's like this. Here is a book. I'm lifting up the book. I'm reading it. I'm talking to you. So much work. And now, after I finish this class, I can go to my room and rest. But that doesn't have to be this way. Even when I'm reading, talking, speaking, and you listening, I can still say, well, in reality, if I keep that awareness in me, I'm the Atman. I'm not doing anything. So right now, I'm already at rest as the Atman. And what is active is really the body and mind, which I am not. So if my computer does a lot of work, I don't get exhausted. The exhaustion is the computer's exhaustion, if at all. But why is it that when the body mind gets exhausted, I get exhausted? Because I don't feel my computer is me, but I feel this is me. That's the problem, that's all. And all that Krishna is saying is that try to remind yourself as often as you can that this is not you. Take good care of it, but this is not you. That's the idea. So you have any thoughts, ideas, comments, questions? Although you as the Atman will not have any doubts or questions. But yes.
You gave the example when we are doing action, but we can identify that Atman doesn't do anything, and we can see inaction in the action. What's the example where we are not doing anything, but still Atman is doing something? Can you have an example for the others?
Yeah, the body is really doing everything. So it is the I which is seeing, but I feel I am seeing it. So the activity is here. Where there is activity, I don't see activity.
Yeah, that's correct. But what is the other way where I'm not doing activity, but I'm still...
No, my very fact, my awareness that I am seeing. I am the Atman. The Atman is not seeing. So where there is no activity, I'm imputing activity. I mean, who is this I? When I say I am seeing, who is the real I? The real I is the Atman, right? And Atman is not really doing anything. So where there is no activity, I'm projecting activity. And where there is actual activity, I'm not seeing activity there. That's the idea. Is that clear? Yeah.
One of the earlier verses today, you give the example of a king and a cobbler, and how Swami Vivekananda said the two different actions, but they're you can't compare, one is better than the other. But then how do you rationalize, the king, through obviously his actions, he's got a lot of wealth, or the cobbler doesn't and may have sufferings in life, may not be able to feed the family. So how does one then try and rationalize that as one is thinking about their own lives? is this action in my life better than the other one? Because this will bring me perhaps less suffering than the other.
Yes, that's a good question. First of all, a cobbler doesn't necessarily you cannot automatically assume won't be able to feed his family. May not be able to bring a 5-star luncheon to the family, but feeding, I don't think that automatically by being virtue of a cobbler, I cannot feed my family. Doesn't happen. So, yes, there's more wealth. I can get a lot more things. Less wealth, less things. But that has got nothing to do with the joy or the fulfillment or the satisfaction. I may have all the wealth in the world to get any kind of food and any quantity of food. My digestive system may be so out of order, I may not be able to enjoy any food. I might have the best bed in town, but I may not get sleep. While a cobbler, you have just some ordinary, and just lie on the ground and have a very sound sleep. So if we measure joy or success in terms of material possessions, then it won't work, because we see in life also that more wealth and less wealth doesn't automatically equate into more happiness and less happiness. But which is not to say that more wealth automatically means less happiness. I'm not saying that. It's possible to have more wealth and be happy also, but it doesn't automatically follow that way. So we cannot make that kind of a connection.
Swamiji, I had the similar question that the previous person had about, the example of seeing inaction in action versus the alternative of seeing action in inaction. So, the way I'm understanding it now is that one looks at it from the objective perspective. So you see inaction in action around you, and that's one way. But the other way of looking at it, you see action and inaction. That's when it's more subjective perspective, where you're inactive as the Atman, seeing activity around you. So I'm just, I had this.
No, around don't even. What around? You're just pointing at things around. No, the around is this. The body mind is around. I am the Atman. Forget about the world. It's not worth wasting time on. At least that's what Vedanta says. Philosophically, by worth wasting time on, I mean, and I think I've referred to it earlier, in the sense that, and this is a big subject, but does the world that we perceive have an existence independent of my own? If it has, then it needs to be taken into consideration. But that's debatable. And because of that, because it doesn't have an independent existence apart from mine, they don't much bother about it, because they said, well, it's pointless, because your world depends on you. If you are happy, the world appears wonderful. If you are miserable, the world appears terrible. So it's very much depend on your own perception. So both are really subjective. It just depends on where I'm focusing my attention. So if I look at it, when I say, you can take the same example. For instance, I am reading. When I say I'm reading, I'm the Atman. So where there is no action, I'm imputing action. But where exactly is the action of reading located? It's in my sense of perception. It's my hands that are holding. But there, I don't say the hands are holding the book, the brain centers are interpreting what's there. We don't look at it that. We just say, I'm reading. So where the activity is already taking place, we are not even considering that activity. We're just saying, I'm the one who is reading. So where there is activity, we don't see activity. We see inactivity. And where there is inactivity, we see activity. So the same example works for both. Does that make sense?
I have to think about it a little bit more.
Yeah, okay. You have one full week. Next week you can tell me whether it makes sense. Anything else? Yeah.
Another way to ask is would we think that in truth there's any action? Or is it just that Atman is immutable and also just the concept of action is part of Maya and is a false concept completely?
Well, I mean, both really. Both in the sense is, if action doesn't exist, inaction doesn't exist also. Right? I mean, how can you negate something which doesn't exist? Does that make sense? So if you're talking of action, you have to speak about inaction. If action doesn't, so action and inaction rise and fall together. It's like the idea of self. The idea of self always comes with the idea of non-self. So even Atman, although we say it's I, it's not really the I. In a sense that we are using I to distinguish it from not I. So the idea of I and not I go together. And so we cannot simply say simply inaction exists, because inaction simply means negation of action. And if action doesn't exist, then the negation automatically falls away. Does that make sense? No?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Swami, could you please kindly tell me, do you understand that, for example, a yogi sitting in a cave, and somebody asked alone, and then somebody came and asked what you are doing, and he said, I'm building a temple. So I understand that this is case of action, right? Right? Do you understand that? This is action, because he's doing what is helpful for evolution, that needs to be done, so, right? Do you understand that?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's one other thought. I'm very happy you mentioned that. Although we didn't refer to it today, I'll just mention it very briefly, and then if you want, we can discuss it a little bit more when we meet next week. That is, certain actions which are, let me just very briefly mention this. Even the meditation that we do, even the japa that we do, we repeat the mantra, that's action. Now, that action really is meant to take us nearer to God. That action is meant to purify our heart. That action leads to freedom, leads to God realization. And so one way of understanding this also would be the action which does not lead to bondage, but in fact is a help toward freedom, is really inaction. And that action which binds me is truly action. So that's a kind of a secondary meaning to that one. And so yes, because all meditation activity is really, it's called manasa vyapara. It's the mental activity. So there is action there. But if I'm meditating on God, then that activity will lead me toward freedom. And so this is as good as inaction, if you want to put it that way. Yeah.
Like action and good action and desire also. So desire, if it is
Right.
goes to
Right. So,
mind.
yeah, if a desire is for God, it frees you.
Right.
If desire is for anything else, it binds you. Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah. Okay, so we will continue this. So there's a lot to think about. And as you can see earlier, that's why Krishna said, Gahana karmano gatihi. Mysterious, inscrutable are the ways of karma. So there's a lot to think about. But if you get your basics right about karma and akarma, then you won't get confused by all this rather loose way the word karma is used, or you won't get confused when some certain questions come. So it's good to get the basics okay. What exactly is karma? What exactly is inaction? How these things get confused in our own mind, and what is it that then binds us more, producing more stress, anxiety, and worry. And if you see the basics, then you know exactly what I need to do. And then it's up to us. How much I want to apply my mind to doing it, that's everyone's personal choice. But at least intellectually you know where the problem is and what the solution is. That's more important. Om Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. We bow down to Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother again and again. According to the lunar calendar, today is the birthday of Buddha. So I'm very happy that on this day we had this good discussion on karma, especially because Swami Vivekananda referred to the Buddha as the ideal karma yogi. It's the best model of how to practice karma yoga is in Buddha's life. You see that in his book on karma yoga, that last lecture, it's very, very inspiring of what he said about the Buddha. So I'm very happy that today we got to discuss it. And so this Sunday, in honor of Buddha's birthday, Sunday we'll have a special Antar Yoga dedicated to the Buddha. There'll be readings from the Buddhist texts, and there'll be songs also related to the Buddha. Next Tuesday we will continue this discussion on the Gita. And on Tuesday and Saturday, our Arati and meditation will also continue as usual. So we'll conclude with a prayer now. May the Divine Being, who is the Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, the Great Spirit of the Native Americans, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being become manifest unto us. May we be granted strength, freedom, and clear understanding. May the Divine bless us all and fill our hearts with infinite grace and love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.